What's up, guys? Zach Evanesh here. I am coming to you from the Underground Strength Gym. Gonna do a strong life chat with my buddy John Gaglione, Coach Gags, powerlifter, gym owner. Here he is. He's first. The Gags father is first. He's gonna be joining us at Gaglione Strength. Let's get him to join. Oh, I think he sent the invite. Here we go. It's my boy, Gags. All right. Thank everybody for stopping in. Call these the Strong Life Chat. Let's see, Gags, you getting in there, bro? Yes. Add. I'm adding you. Should be able to come in. And guys, make sure you got questions. Everybody should have questions. There he is.
I'm rocking the old school underground
Yes.
coach. Living the code, brother.
I'm gonna reprint that shirt.
Dude,
Green.
It's one of my favorite ones.
It's a great shirt.
I got to show. Let's see if I can get the back.
Live the code.
People. So this is my my lap spread right here for you guys. If you can see.
Yes. Gags, I gotta tell you, bro, you look amazing, dude.
I know. Who would have thought I could have got more handsome? You know.
I mean, I tell you what, I guarantee you, like Mark Smelly Bell and Jesse Burdick are just crying. They've dropped now to the third handsome. You're number one.
Oh man.
You know. So first of all, man, great to see your face, and you look great, dude. You know, I always tell people, I go, what stinks is sometimes I don't come across people's work, you know, in like Facebook and Instagram. If you haven't liked something, you don't see it.
Yes.
So I guess last week or 2 weeks ago, I see your before and after, and I don't know how much weight you've lost, but you got ripped abs. I mean, you look great. How much weight have you lost?
Yeah. So I've been for those that are listening. So you know, I'm Coach Gaglione. I've been man, I mean, I think it's been like over probably about close to a decade. I took the Underground Strength certification.
Yes.
Zach twisted my arm, and he's like, "Yo, brothers, you got to invest." And I'm like, "All right, here you go." I spent my teacher's paycheck for the weekends, and I invested in myself, and it was a great decision. But yeah, so I've been as heavy as 340 pounds. I actually remember. Man, it was like when I was at my heaviest was actually 2011 is when I opened up Gaglione Strength, and I kind of let my health go. You know, I think this is very common for a lot of business owners when they first open up. We kind of went all into the business, and I wasn't kind of take care of myself first. And I've kind of waved up and down. And one of like the challenges of being a powerlifter and you're kind of always chasing numbers is you kind of lose sight in like your health. And I just was I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm 208 pounds today. Lean and mean, and yeah.
You're lighter than me. It's amazing. You're lighter than me.
I feel good. This is the leanest I've been, like forever, including my childhood, and I feel like I'm getting started. I said I might not be quite Mr. Israel yet, but I'm working towards it. So the plan was actually I was supposed to get on stage on May 30th. That show got canceled.
What show was that going to be?
It was just a Long Island show, but there's actually a show. It hasn't been canceled yet, so I'm fingers crossed. There's actually a show in Wayne, New Jersey at the end of June. So I plan on getting on stage, getting jacked and tan, and putting up. Got my shorts and been practicing. So just want to challenge myself. I don't know if I'll do another one, but I want to get on stage at least once. And I just want to kind of show people it's possible. Even like at my head. If you guys see, I put a before and after picture today. And I put some progress pictures today, and I put like a before and after this week. And I've been heavy most of my life, and when I met, I mean, you can see the pictures. When I first met Zach, you could see it's just a huge difference. But training's always been a big part of my life. But just dialing into the nutrition, and just honestly, it's the discipline, it's the habits, it's the lifestyle. And I just wasn't doing the work in terms of like my eating. And a lot of times we kind of, we make excuses, and I think that if I did things the right way, I could have gained weight at a slower pace and been more patient, and I wouldn't have had done so much work to kind of get the weight off. So I do plan on, I still want to compete in powerlifting, just at a more healthy, more manageable body weight. And I still do plan on, getting back to my old numbers, but just lighter and healthier. And if it takes me another 5 or 10 years, that's okay. Like I plan on training for as long as I can. And I want to, be in this for the long haul. So this will be my 15th year as a competitive lifter. And, I plan on doing this as long as I can, as long as my joints allow me to,
Sure.
But that's been kind of like what I've been doing. So the past, since January, I've been really focused on bodybuilding training, but really the past 3-4 years, especially, I've really just been trying to focus on weight loss. And one of the I'm not sure if you know this or not, Zach, but basically one of my goals was to squat 800 pounds in 6 weight classes. So I was able to do 800 at 198 this past November. I did do a water cut to do that. So as far as to my knowledge, I'm the only man to squat 800 in 6 weight classes. So that was kind of a goal. And that kind of mentally allowed me to be okay with letting go of that super heavyweight numbers. And you know what, I'm just going to hit a goal for each weight class as I go down. And that allowed me to still hit my love of have my love of powerlifting, but still also focus on my health in the process. So it was a good kind of barter I made with myself, and it helped me kind of stay on track. And because when you start to identify with a certain way of training, it gets really tough to kind of let that go. Especially if you've been doing it for so long. If you were, I'm sure, if you were a former wrestler or a football player, when that's over, it's kind of depressing.
Yes.
We spent, I'm sure that your athletes probably deal with that all the time. Once they're done with college or a high school career, and then it's okay, what do I do now?
Yes. Some of them, because they don't replace it with another goal or just another activity, they just completely go to the other end of the spectrum. And they get completely out of shape. They stop training. Oh, if I can't do what I used to do. And I remember Marty Gallagher saying, that's how you get hurt. Marty, I think, is 70. And Marty said, when he got to his mid 40s and then 50, he said, his old powerlifting buddies would be like, well, if I can't train like I used to, I'm not doing it at all. He's like, listen, we're not always going to be able to squat the 800 pounds. But also what came to mind was, I don't know if Donnie Thompson said it, maybe it was Marty, maybe Louie, I don't know, but I had a lot of the powerlifting guys, especially from 70s and 80s, and even Donnie Thompson, they were setting their records and world records in their 40s.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see, I guess,
I think Donnie was 46 and when he totaled 3,000.
Something like that, 45 to 46. And, I'm also having these flashbacks because we've known each other so long, Gags, and I want to hit home the message to people. So this question is good of One Up MZ. How did you lose so much weight? I'm going back to, I'm feeling like we were at my Edison gym. It was probably 8 years ago, and I think Jesse Burdick was either programming, training, or nutrition for you.
I think I started working with him shortly after, because I remember we actually had this conversation.
He had lost a lot of weight.
Jesse was doing. I don't know if you guys remember Kiefer in the car back line.
Yes, he lost a lot of weight. When I met Jesse, looked like he was probably. He may have been around 230 something. He was going down to 220. I think he was heavyweight or super heavyweight. And then when you and I trained this one day, I remember us doing 20 sets of military press.
Yes.
With pull-ups. And you were starting to kind of get into the nutrition. I actually have, I'm going to show you that bar I'll never get rid of it, Gags. Is that this bar.
Is that a Black Widow special?
Yes.
Yes.
But, Gags touched the bar, so it will never be sold. So I just remember, the person who's asking, how did you lose so much weight? I guess the point being is it wasn't this in a year. It's been you've always been a goal-oriented guy.
Yes. It's been I'll just really quickly. So I think someone asked how much. I've lost about 130 pounds or so. So I've been as heavy as 340 pounds. I've been consistently under 210 for the last several weeks. I made this decision and I've tried this a few times. So we mentioned with Zach, it wasn't I've kind of yo-yoed up and down. Now I kind of figured it out and been consistent, but I kind of made this decision after squatting 900 pounds in competition 5 years ago. The first 2 years, I didn't really lose much weight, but I started to get my habits in place. I got a CPAP, I got a sleep study. I started to do things that were more lifestyle oriented. And I wasn't really focused on the scale, but I was setting the stage up for success. And the past 3 years, because a lot of people are like, man, it's like, you lost this weight so fast. And I'm like, mother effer. I'm like, no, it's like, this has been like a long-term like process. And my weight is up and down. It's been like a 5-year like process. It's really about consistency. But yeah, to your point, I wanted to kind of go back to what you were saying about how some people kind of fall off. I think guys like me and you, like, we just like also love the training. And I think you have to fall in love with the process. If you don't like love training, like at some point, like you have to like, I like love this stuff. I'm always going to,
Right.
I'm
when you and I get together, we always talk about training. It's like, we are coaches, and, you know, I'm sure we'll get into it later, but that's also why guys like you and I have longevity in the business, because we're not like, oh no, I have to coach. We love it. We love it.
Yeah, I'm going crazy. I mean, listen, I'm loving these garage workouts and stuff, but I'm just like ready to kind of like get back in the gym and see.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I've been doing the Zoom stuff. I've been doing like the online coaching and things like that. But man, it's like, and like to your point, I remember that workout we were doing. It was like a dynamic workout that Jesse Burdick's is a evil man with some of that stuff. But we were doing, and you know what was interesting about that workout is that is something that you would typically do, and with like your athletes, we would kind of do like a couplet, we would call it, right? And we would do a press and a pull, and we do that mixed pulling in between, and like just like it's just more athletic. You're kind of getting more training in, and I think that is something. If you are someone that people are listening that maybe are into powerlifting or they want to get stronger, is that you're never gonna like. It's okay to be like in shape, and it's okay to like do some of this other stuff. You don't need to be just training. You don't need to have 10 minutes in between your sets like all the time. There's a time and a place for that. When I'm going for an 800-pound squat, I think it's important to like understand what is the intent of the day. And that was like one of the things that we always learned. But when we get together, we always do something crazy, and it's always a lot of fun. And even when I was bigger, like when I took the underground strength cert and I was heavier, you're like, all right, it's like we're doing wall walks and we're like walking on our hands and stuff, and we're doing partner wheelbarrows. I still like did it, and like I don't care about like that's like one thing I think sometimes, especially in the powerlifting crowd, like they get really complacent and just like absolute strength, and they don't want to do body weight stuff. They don't want to do conditioning. They don't want to, there's a point to like, yes, you want to specialize as you get close to a contest, but don't be afraid to like also do stuff that you suck at, or do things that are like a challenge. I like to do like Murph every year, for example. I'm probably going to do Murph either next week or the week after. And I'm not hitting any like world record times in that, but you know what? How many people are, squatting 800 and doing Murph and doing, like that's like that's like, like I like being more well-rounded. I like doing other types of training. I like the challenge of it. I like the work.
Yes.
I think that is
that's the ticket.
Really important message.
You are always seeking another look. A couple things you said there, Gags. Number one, we go back as friends over a decade. You would come to every seminar, training, business. And then, you mentioning that you did the hand walking and the wall walking. And I got to tell you, a big reason why I barely do my cert anymore is I got so tired of everybody who doesn't
I just want to watch.
I want to watch. Nobody wants to travel. Like, I want people who are ready to sleep in their car to learn. And because I tell you, those people have longevity. For example, we've got you. In the early days of the cert, we have these two guys, Sean and Z. They now have a franchise of gyms out in the UK. They franchise their gyms. We got CJ Appenzeller, who he came to the cert. Then he'd come to a cert to help, like you did. He went to Sore Neck Summer Strong. He slept in his car, and it's like, all right, if you're not willing to, if you don't want to bleed for it, you're not going to have longevity because you don't have grit. You don't have toughness. And so you've always sought out. I saw this kind of like a meme, or I don't know what they call them. It was just like a quote, and somebody posted, it was like, it said something like, go find people and go get your ass kicked. And they were saying like, you need to go and find people better than you, or just people who are going to challenge you. And look, I said it, I know some of the kids I train are watching. When I got to this high school I'm coaching at now, when I got there the first 2 weeks, not one kid, I don't want to say not one kid, but they didn't want to train with me. They did not, because they wanted to do a couple shitty sets of bench. then 45 minutes of curling. Nobody wanted to squat. Nobody wanted to learn to squat. Nobody wanted to work their legs, do pull-ups. And I told them, comfort is the enemy. Everything you do that's comfortable doesn't really challenge you. It doesn't really make you better. So I want to go into some like real specifics. You had the ups and downs with weight. You tried a lot of these different, there's been a lot of different quote unquote diets through the past 10 years. What would you call what kind of eating, plan you're following now? What is it?
So here's the thing. This is like what people don't want to hear. It's like, you got to be in a calorie deficit is like the most important thing. And most people, it's like one of the things that I never really wanted to do initially was track what I was my food. And it's like with training, it's like you wouldn't like lift weights with the blindfold. Like you kind of know, you always know what's on the bar, right? So I think with food, I always like to try to relate it back to training. Because I think especially the people that are kind of following us, like we kind of get that part of it like a lot easier. So like you wouldn't just throw like random weights on that you didn't know like what they weighed, right? You wouldn't just be like, like it kind of like this kind of feels like 500 or this kind of like, like what's on the bar. You have a program and you have a progression. There's a progression to it. So a lot of people they're like, well, what do you eat right now? And I'm like, that's the wrong question. You should be asking like, what was I doing, at 340 or whatever. Because I'll have some people, like I have a guy that I'm working with now and he's like, guy that's looking to lose weight. And I think he's around like 400 pounds and he's eating like under 2,000 calories. And first of all, I don't know if like, is this true or what? That's a whole other thing. But it's like, dude, it's like, that's not like where you start. It's like, where are you going to go? Like, it's like, where do you go
That's
from
nothing.
there? So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, it's like, I think part of it is like just like being aware of where you're at and then kind of like just taking a step in the right direction. Just like you wouldn't start with an 800-pound squat. Like you got to just like, okay, what's your starting point? Like where's like your max now? So like what are your eating habits now? And start to kind of just track that. So like for me, actually the biggest one was sleep. And that was something I learned a lot from Stan Efferding. And my sleep was horrible.
Why? Why was your sleep horrible?
I just no matter how much I slept or if I napped or whatever, I just like had no energy like all the time. So I got a sleep study and like the doctors were like, I forget how many times I was like kind of stopping my breathing and stuff, but they were like, their faces kind of like said it all. And they were like, dude, it's like, this is like not good. So getting used to the CPAP was like a tremendous thing. And
what kind of CPAP do you have?
It's a full mask, but basically, and truthfully, I don't know if I need it anymore because I've lost so much weight. But the fact is, it just helps my recovery. And at this point, it's just a habit. And I think, I've even like now I still have a pretty thick neck and usually I think the metric, if your neck is like over like 18.5 inches, like you're going to be more at risk. Your airway is just like kind of smaller. I remember it was really uncomfortable. I had to see like an ear, nose, and throat guy and they put this thing like up your nose. It's like the most uncomfortable like thing. And it's like,
they did that to my son. I remember my son had to get that done.
I have like a social media time limit and it's all good, but it's all good now.
Okay.
And, they're like, oh, you have a small airway. And it's like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, no, no shit. Like, it's like, that's why I'm here, but they had to put this like thing up my nose. And it was,
they did that to my son had that done a couple of years ago.
God.
And, the doctor was like, no, this is not going to hurt. And then he's like,
dude,
I was like, oh shit. But my son is tougher than me. He didn't bat an eye. I couldn't believe it.
So the sleep was like kind of the major thing. So the one thing I like to look at, so like probably for guys like me and you, I always try to explain to people, it's not necessarily a lack of effort, but it's lack of where's your intent and where's your focus. So like I like to think of things in 4 categories in terms of body composition. You got to look at your training. You got to look at like your nutrition, and I would consider like hydration as part of that. Your sleep / recovery, and then your stress management. And I think a lot of us, the training box is probably checked off for a lot.
Yes.
There was never like a lack of effort, even when I was bigger. Like, I mean, I was, whether it be the trap bar deadlifts, the kettlebell swing, whatever, like I was still always doing stuff. And I was never, even when I was bigger, I still like did accessory work. I still did like, what I would consider more athletic type stuff. Compared to like most super heavyweight guys. Yes. It wasn't that I was like in bad shape or anything, or it wasn't lack of effort in my training, but the nutrition aspect wasn't there. And for me, the sleep was the missing link. So even if you feel like, and I tried things, I remember like, I tried carb cycling. I tried like a Shelby Starnes diet. I tried the carb backloading. I tried keto. I mean, you name it, like I tried it. But until I got my sleep under control, that allowed me to kind of get going. I take a lot of my information from Stan Efferding right now, and I'm working with a local like bodybuilding coach right now. His name is Sean Cody. He's great because he's just a local guy, and he's always spotted and loaded at RPS meets and stuff. So we just been, it's just nice to have a local guy, and I can do my posing practice with him. And he's fantastic, and we kind of collaborate together. But I think that the diet it's more about, number one, being in a calorie deficit. And the reason I like a lot of Stan Efferding stuff is that he's also taking into account the micronutrient and your health in mind. So, but at the end of the day, you just got to be in a calorie deficit. And then the other thing I'll say is at some point, I would say every like 3 to 4, 3 to 5 months or so, you got to be in a maintenance period and let your body kind of like recomp and like settle. So like my weight hasn't changed too much, but I'm sure, Zach, you've probably seen pictures and stuff. Like I've been like kind of like in this like sub 230 range for a few months now, but my body is still changing, but my body's getting used to being like 210. And you need to give your body time to adjust to that new weight, or else it's gonna bounce back.
You're right. It shocks the body too much. And I also want to say this, Gags. Unfortunately, and no offense to these other coaches, but so many of these other diets that have gone around these past decade, there's always something extreme about them. I'm carb backloading, so now I'm eating apple pie at night, and you start craving food that's not healthy for you. I still remember a buddy of mine, he followed one of Tim Ferriss's diets, and my buddy was very lean, but he's like, damn it, now that I followed this like thing and I'm eating donuts, he's like, now I want a donut all the time. And I was like, yeah, that's the problem. It's like these gurus don't want us to say eat healthy. Like that's too vague of a term for them. But the vertical diet has been the most balanced, quote unquote, healthy. You're having protein, you're having carbs, you're getting healthy fats from your steak. And if you're eating chicken, you could have skin on it. And, you're cooking with butter and putting olive oil or coconut oil. So it's the most balanced. And to me, that makes it the most logical thing for long-term success. I don't know how long, Mark Smelly Bell can do carnivore diet because, he's an extremist in general. Most people are not like that. Mark has been doing extreme things since he was 14 with all the powerlifting, and most people, it's just not going to jive with them.
I'll say with Mark too, just because, just having conversations with him is like, he uses all these things as like tools, and he does these things for like a period of time.
Yes.
And he'll like reintroduce carbs and things like that. So I think he did like a carnivore thing for like 100 days in a row or something like that. It's not like he's doing it all the time now.
It's a challenge for him, and it pushes him. Yes. And then he starts, like you said, I'm going to start having more carbs now. I feel my energy's a little bit low. He kind of works it in accordance with his mindset.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of good. Like, and I'll do that too. I remember I did like a keto, like we did like a keto like Christmas challenge one time and stuff. I think it's like good to like just do different things, and also it's a challenge. But I think to your point, man, it's like, and I don't want to like call out like anyone specific, but we all know those people. It's like, I went on a diet and I had ice cream every day and and it's like, well, you know what? Guess what? It's like, I'm not going to have one friggin' scoop of ice cream. That is not like my personality. So if there's like a trigger food that you just can't handle,
right, I'm
just not going to have it. And you know what? I enjoy, like right now I'm having things like Piedmontese beef and things like that. Like I prefer like beef over chicken. So there's certain, I think the micronutrient profile is better.
Yes.
I'm still having egg yolks, and I'm still having like, so I enjoy these foods and they fit my plan. I enjoy these foods and they fit my plan. It doesn't need to be like a one or the other. So it doesn't need to be like healthy and disgusting. Like find things that are going to work for you and make you successful. So I think that's really important too. It doesn't need to be like, and like, to be honest, it's like, I'm sorry, but it's like, is a donut like that great or whatever? Do you really feel like that good? Like after the fact? Like, no, you don't. You're going to feel like crap like after. And that's like one thing that there's certain things that I like, and I think we all have our foods, but it's like, ask yourself, how do you feel like after the fact? And it's like,
that's the big, how does your stomach feel? What's your energy like? And so, for me, and also for like parents watching, you have kids, like there's food in my house that I never eat, or food that I never had in my house growing up with my parents. You know, my parents are immigrants, so like potato chips, shit like that is like not something that like we never had potato chips. Some cookies, stuff like that, yes, but like now we have those things in my house, and so I have to be super disciplined, because sometimes I catch myself, if I don't have food and meals prepared, then I'll catch myself snacking on things. So like lately, you know, I know what works great for me is like moderate protein, moderate fat, pretty low on the carbohydrate side. So like steak, eggs, dinner time, I have whatever we make. And I make dinner one night, my wife makes dinner another night, but for the most part, it's like a heavy protein, a medium carb, and then some veggies or a salad. And then at night, I repeat another meal. So like last night, I had steak and some smashed sweet potatoes. Pretty simple. This morning was steak and eggs. I'm beasting it, Gags. I don't know what else to tell you.
I mean, it's like it's not like I think that a lot of times like we like know like the answer, but it's like we just don't. And like, and to your point, I know it's like I think like, again, I know it's a Strong Life podcast, right? So it's we have the parental advisory on here, but I think like snacks are kind of like bullshit. Like I think like just eat food. Like,
you're right.
Like, you know, I mean, just like, you know, eat like a real meal. I think like it's like you know, it's like if you're always picking and stuff, like you're probably not having enough actual nutrition. Like it's like you shouldn't
when I eat a snack, I'm like, damn it, I get pissed at myself. So what I do is I always have a protein powder. I bought Mark's whey protein, and then there's a good place locally actually that's quality and tastes good. And I do water, I do the protein, and I do a spoon of sun butter or a spoon of almond butter to get a little extra fat in there that helps curb my appetite. So really it comes down to this, Gags. You have been staying the course. You're very disciplined, and people want to know, where's the trick? Where is it? And sometimes it's about just saying, damn it, I will not veer the course. Yeah.
Well, so like this is all my beef, and we got, you know, the muscle egg for, you know, because we can't friggin' get eggs right now, but I got the whole eggs here. So this is all Piedmontese beef. I mean, so that's also, these are all like 8-ounce, you know, portions and stuff like that.
You order that from
so this is Piedmontese. So this is something. So what's really cool about this, you guys can see. So this is 96%. So this is only 3.5 grams of fat. This is very lean, but I like it better than chicken, and so this is going to allow me to like stay on my beef while I'm getting deep into bodybuilding prep. So this is like pure protein, you know. And then I got like, you know, I'll make like a protein kind of pudding. This is with Isopure, so it's 0 carbs.
Yeah.
And then I got some sweet potatoes in here. So I mean, it's like, dude, it's like, it's delicious. I mean, it's, you
know, I got to tell you what this reminds me of. You know, my buddy Jim Steele, he's only 5'7", but he was 308 pounds.
I know. He's on my bucket list to connect with. I mean, because well, just he's got the great podcast with Marty.
Right.
I love hearing these guys speak about the old powerlifting stuff.
And they speak a lot about that, but Jim, you know, did bodybuilding shows because he's like you. He's like, I need to set a goal, otherwise I'll be 275. You know, he's like big Maryland guy, Maryland pride. So he's like, I'm always going to eat like, you know, clam chowder and drink beer, and I'm going to gain that weight. He's like, so he set these bodybuilding goals or entered competitions, and you've got beef and sweet potatoes. And so he was mentored by a guy who was like a big time bodybuilder. And basically the guy was like, you know, you're going to have 4 meals a day. You're going to have 4 like turkey patties or hamburger patties or ground beef. And you're going to have a sweet potato every day. You're going to have 1 sweet potato with each meal. And then the next week, it's going to be down to 3 sweet potatoes a day. Then the next week, 2. And then one kind of carb cycle. Progression. And believe it or not, when I was competing for the Mr. New Jersey, my training partner was so lean that the only thing our nutritionist had him eat was ground beef, because he would get like, his lower back would be striated if he had like a meatball sub and then followed by Cheerios. He was so ripped. So he needed the extra fat, but it was the ground beef and rice or sweet potatoes. That's kind of how we ate for quite a while. And then I think, you know, for the people who get bored of that, I've been tweaking up some things. Like I'm like you, I like to connect with people who like to talk about training. So, you know, I talked to my buddy, Jesse Ackerman. He's with the Falcons. Jesse's like, yeah, man. He's like, right now I got 4 chicken breasts. They're soaking in a IPA. So you marinate them with some beer. And then he goes, I just put salt, pepper, and garlic on them. So last week I tried doing a little bit of that. Another time I'll put like a little oil and vinegar, a dash of soy sauce, and I'll eat, you know, the chicken. But for the most part, I'm having some sort of a red meat because I like it all. I'll get different steaks, different cuts. Also, you know, I have kids, and so I can't just cook for myself. For me, let's say I lived alone, it would just be like, it would be steak and eggs, steak and eggs. I don't, but my family, they like to have like different cuts of beef. It's also good for you to change it up because your body doesn't get either allergic, intolerant, or any kind of issue from it. You could change up the cut of beef.
Yeah, and for me, for other tips too, if you feel like it's getting, so I could eat all this stuff all the time, but one thing I'll do is I'll kind of switch up, like maybe sometimes I'll put like a little seasoning on it, or I'll put hot sauce, or use mustard.
Yes.
It makes you kind of feel like it's different, even if it's the same thing. But I'll be honest, I enjoy these foods, so to me, again, Stan Efferding kind of quote, compliance is the science. So it's like I enjoy these foods, so I'm going to stick to it. If you're picking foods that you just are kind of like gagging to get down, like you're not going to stick to it long term. So I think that's kind of something I really want to bring home is it's really about what can you be consistent with, not necessarily like, you know, now there's going to be times when I'm like 4 weeks out from my show. You kind of just, it's like when you're peaking for a powerlifting meet, you just do the program and just make it to the meet, you know, but the other like, points out of the year, if you're like 3 or 4 months out, 5 months out from you gotta sometimes like, if you're like 80% like good and you're like consistent all the time, because I think a lot of people, they're either like, they're all in for like a week and then they're like all out as quickly as they kind of get into it, they're like done. So I'd rather see somebody be like 80 or 90% like all the time, like working really hard, and do that for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Wow. 5 years. Listen, this reminds me, it hits home that in life, you need to be tough. No, too many people, it's like they get a little uncomfortable. It's a struggle. They just break. And I'm not talking about with nutrition. You and I are gym owners. We're strength coaches. Since you've gone to the CERT 10 plus years ago, there's so many people that have gone to the CERT that dropped out. They had a gym, but then they bailed out because then they realized, oh, I have to coach almost every day. You and I follow what we would call like the owner operator method, where we are very often on the ground floor. We haven't outsourced the coaching predominantly. We don't,
I tried, brother. And I just like, that was like because like that was what we were kind of taught, right? You want to make a lot of money, you got to get off the floor, right?
Yes. That's what they teach you.
But it's like, dude, it's like, so for me, like, and yes, like, and this is like always like a struggle with me and things like that. But like, to me, like I do this because I love coaching. So I think you have to really dig deep and ask yourself like why you're doing this. Like, do you really love coaching? Do you like just training yourself? Like, to me, like, I know, like, it's like I get like fired up being around other people like you. I get fired up seeing other people like achieve their goals. Like, for me, like, my biggest passion and thing I love the most is when I'm at a powerlifting meet or whatever, or I'm sure for you, when you're at a wrestling match and you see your kid kick that guy's ass, like, that's like, dude, like, that's why you do it. It's
fires
like
you up.
When Johnny rips that guy's arm off and you're like, yeah, like, that's like all that's, you see all that year or 6 months of hard work when Johnny gets his hand raised in the state finals, where I see Larry Wheels pull 800 plus pounds to break a world record. Like, that is like, and that was a 6-year goal. Like, dude, that's like, it's like that moment. Like, it's like, you can't like replace that.
Yeah.
And like, that's the thing that gets me like fired up. Like, like that's why we do it.
It's also, I've been having conversation with some of my buddies, is that there's kind of a lot of this like new age stuff going out with like how you should run your gym. And what's interesting to see is some of the, like business coaching programs out there, like, OPEX, which is James Fitzgerald. He was the first guy to win the CrossFit Games.
Okay.
He espouses the owner-operator model, where you're predominantly on the ground floor because you love coaching and you're trying to become the ultimate expert at coaching. Then you got guys like Chris Cooper, To Bring Business. I like his method, which is you are taking yourself off the floor. Then you bring on a head coach who gets something like a 40% of the profit. Then you've got like your overhead, and then you're getting about like 30% when it's all said and done. So it's like 40% to the head coach, 30% to all overhead expenses, rent, this 30% to you. He's like, then you're able to work on your other passion projects and you can keep moving. That's also an option if you can really find somebody who just wants to be a coach, part of the team, but you also have to have the emotional, how do you say, like the emotional, you got to be strong emotionally, knowing that, look, if this guy really loves coaching, he'll probably want to open his next gym. And so you have to get interns through, and you have to keep kind of recycling a new head coach. You know, I run both options. You know, my gym up in North Jersey, we have a head coach, and then we have 2 part-time coaches. I don't go there that much. I oversee everything. And when I do go up there, even when somebody's on the floor, I kind of take over because I'm just getting nuts, you know? It's like, and sometimes I know it's probably better. That's why I say better that I stay away, because then I'm going to freak out my own coaches. I'm going to be like too much on them. And so there's ways to do it, but I think sometimes the people getting into the business, they're getting misled and they don't realize, hey man, I'm going to have to work a lot. And if I'm not on the floor, I'm doing behind the scenes marketing and business operations. And so, you know, it's a lot, but I still like this smaller type setup because, you know, let's say I had 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 coaches. That would have been, you know, that would have been a lot of stress for me and them during this time where we'd have to furlough employees. And I think there's a lot of people out there now who are just going to get out of this business. It's just been, it's like too much of an emotional roller coaster for them.
I think I don't know if you're the first person to talk about this, or if there's, you know, what's like your unique ability. And
Yeah.
and I think it's funny because you know, being like a kind of a West Side guy and stuff, we always talk about like weak point training and stuff. I think in business, a lot of times it's the opposite. Is like,
Yes.
I think in business, if you want to like have lasting power, like focus on your strengths. And now there's certain things like so for me, like I noticed that like when I took myself off the floor, my like motivation and like my morale was like way down, and I just could not like do that. And like I'm just so like now I'm trying to figure out like, so I have a guy that's like starting to like edit my video and take control of more of editing and that kind of stuff. I like creating content, but I don't want to be behind a computer like editing it. I don't like care to like make a thumbnail.
That's
I don't
right.
care to like, I don't want to like look up like what the hashtag is.
I just left
like that's
my
just
house.
like not like, you know what I'm saying? It's like like,
you know, look,
like,
my
you know,
kids and my wife know, like I was downstairs working. I'm like, I got to get the F out of here. I get cabin fever. So I said, if the kids ain't coming outside with me, I'm outside. And you know, I've had that since I was a kid. You know, when I grew up in the 80s, 7 a.m. I'm out on my bike. I didn't come home until dinner. Dinner was done. I'm out on my bike till my dad whistled for us to come home, which was like 10:30 at night. So I tell my son, I go, Ethan, the amount I rode in one day on my bike is what you do in the summertime. Like I was just nonstop. And so you have to know your unique ability. What is your strength? What can you do better than anybody else? Focus on that. Outsource the other things. The tricky thing for me is, you know, marketers can't really market my gym better than me. They don't know how to share the content because I understand the psychology of people watching, what they're looking for. So I'm kind of like a double-edged sword, because since day one, not only did I get into the training, but I started learning the business side right away.
I think that if you were, and I think I'm in the same boat too, especially because especially in terms of like my powerlifting niche, because it's like there's so much like knowledge there, and there's so much like, you know, when you, like I said, we've been both in it for like, you know, it's well over a decade into coaching and things like that. It's like there's so much. It's like so unless a marketing person is with you like long term, they're not going to like really speak your language. They're not
No.
going to really like understand like how to like who you're trying to attract and things like that. Because I've kind of like tried to use some companies and stuff before, and it's like, dude, it's like,
Look, you know who they
it's
could
like,
work for?
do you even squat, brother? Like,
Yes.
it's like,
They
it's
can
like,
do the marketing for like the local bagel
yeah,
shop, the
yeah, yeah,
local whatever clothing shop. But you don't, I've spoken to thousands of parents. I know what they're asking. And even when they do ask something, if they don't ask the question correctly, I know what they mean. I know how they think according to the car they drive, according to the look,
yeah.
we grasp. That's really just knowing who you're serving. And so for me, like, I don't really, this is just what my gym's about. Like, I came in here to train, and I was like, the music was not that loud because my neighbor's been being a little bitch about it. So I was like, F this. I fucking cranked it. And I was like, I don't train to know kind of medium level music. I crank it. So that's what we do. I listen to loud music when we train. That's how I am. I don't know if I'm ever going to change. Maybe when I'm older, I don't know. But like, I am older. I've been doing it since I was a teenager. I wanted places with pumping music, and I don't have any other way to do it.
Yeah, I think some people are just going to be wired different, and but I think that you have to kind of do what's going to, some things are going to drain energy, and some things are going to give you energy. And I know, like, for me, I just get fired up when if there's like a group of people. So that's like that's the one thing that's been a little bit challenging for me moving forward, is like, man, am I going to like be able to have a group of 15, like of groups of like 5 on the same squat bar in the near future and things like that. Because I'll tell you, yeah, we could have like one person on one rack, but it's like, it's just not the same thing as like having the group of people,
Look,
banging weights together,
sure. With all this going on, I look at like Donnie Thompson. They're all training on the same monolift. He's got groups of like 6 people. And I really think health-wise, the people in their 50s the men in their 50s who are out of shape, overweight, are being impacted more by coronavirus than teenagers and fit people in their 20s and 30s. I also think that the hiding and just, God forbid, I shake somebody's hand now. I don't think that that's like a big help, to be honest with you. And when this first started happening, when they started putting kind of lines in the stores and where you got to stand, I was in a CVS, and the lady was like, "Oh, you got to move back." I was like, "Oh, I didn't even see the line." And she's like, "Yeah, that's why we are where we are." I felt like saying, "Lady, that's not why we are." Like, I don't come into a place touching my face, putting it all over people. I didn't see the line. Like, now people who are kind of not fit for this are voicing their opinion too much. And I think we need to certainly get exposed to people again. But what's also the unique thing about this is I've always been a believer of the hardcore gym does not mean a dirty gym. And I harp heavy on my coaches. I don't want to see a crumb on this floor, and we're cleaning. And now that this thing has happened, I'm really heavy duty laying into everybody. And I said, you know what? If you coach here, that's one thing. But if you also train here, you're a coach and you come and lift here on your non-hours, now you're part of the cleaning crew. That's it. You want to come and use the stuff? You're vacuuming. You're mopping. You're not just coming in and, like what they said in West Side versus the World. You're not coming into this place and just taking. And to me, I'll tell you, one of the most profound things Greg Glassman said, Coach Glassman of CrossFit, was when he spoke about a dirty bathroom. He said, if I see you coaching a clean and you pull with the arms instead of pulling with the back, he's like, that tells me you're a work in progress. You're working on it. He's like, but if I come and I see your bathroom's a mess, he's like, that tells me you don't give a fuck. And he said, that's fatal. And that is the most profound thing I believe he ever said. It's like, when I see dirty or unorganized, it tells me you don't give a shit. And so I always turn it around on people. It's like, man, make everything organized. And even at the high school I coach at, I removed equipment because they were making a mess. There was just too much. So I organized every bench and every squat rack with the same weights. There's 2 quarters, 2 10s, 3 5s, and then there's extra whatever 45s on the bottom. But it's like, it makes things like you're like a pro. You got to respect the gym. And so, these whatever we call them, global gyms, commercial gyms, there's not a lot of respect in those places. People don't put away equipment. They disrespect it because it's $20. When I was in high school, Gags, my gym membership was $45 a month. Apollon Gym was $45 a month out of my own pocket. And so I put stuff away, man. I always did that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think part of that's we kind of I guess assume that I don't know, that I think some people think that, like, I don't know if not to put the blame on parents and stuff, but if mommy or daddy's always cleaning up after them and stuff, and it's just not taught, they just don't know any better.
Yeah.
So I know for me, like, there's literally been times where I've snapped on some people and stuff, and it's like, and it's like, dude, it's like, where did you get, or like, why is this like plate on the floor or whatever. And I think if there's anything that's going to be kind of good out of this, it's like a nice like reset button when we come back to be like, hey, like, these are going to be like our systems, and it's like, if you don't like it, then you could kind of go somewhere else. But because it's going to be really important that things are in order and clean and stuff. And the plate thing drives me nuts. And even like, because we have different like stickers and colors for it's like, it's not that like difficult. It's like, just put your stuff away, take care of it. It's like, dude, it's like, you talked about Apollon and stuff, which is a great like bodybuilding gym and things like that. And it's like, people don't realize like how fortunate they are to like have access to some of these like gyms. Like, we didn't have to like, I used to drive 30, 40, an hour each way to kind of go to use a monolift or like to get my powerlifting training and stuff in. And it's like, there's so many more options. And even like now, it's like, there's so many options in terms of who you can work with online and things like that. It's like, so I think people just need to be a lot more grateful for there's so many more opportunities to like learn. And even like this, it's like, whatever, there's like 15 people on this thing. And it's like, there could be like so many more people like learning and getting wisdom from it. It's like, not everyone takes advantage of, like what's right in front of them,
Right. Joe Ken was saying, he's like, man, I think all these Zoom calls, he's like, I think it's going to hit a wall. He's like, I don't know how much people can handle it. And my whole thing is, because everything is free, people don't really value and don't really respect what is free. That's going to be the big issue. And so, I think that's where we are with like content and information. That's why I think the smarter guys, they build things, right? Like Smelly has things. He has bands and support gear and clothing and supplements. Donnie has equipment and support gear. They've built things, whereas content is just, it's just free. Dan Forsythe, thanks, buddy.
I was going to, Zach, so I got probably like about 10, 15 minutes. And then
we only have 5 minutes because this thing will cut out in an hour.
Do you guys, do you want to take any questions from people? Or
let anybody.
You guys, any questions? I think we kind of touched a bunch, but I appreciate, thanks, brother, for coming on. We got, so how do you, Zach, how do you communicate importance of nutrition and sleep to high school kids was one?
Oh yeah. So I speak about it every day with them. I might speak about it right after the warm up. I'll speak about it during the closeout. And then also in the high school, we have a Google Classroom. So I put a PDF in there, very short. It's something like 3 pages, maybe 2 pages with sample meals. And then I talk to the kids all the time about it. And so I have it as a PDF, and then I printed it out. Dan was also wondering just beginner lifting and nutrition tips. So Gags, give them like, what's a beginner lifter? What should they be doing?
I think just keep it very simple, push something, pull something, and then do something for like your legs. So like right now, if you like, even if you just have, because another person asked about how to maintain muscle. I think during this time, if you don't have any equipment, dude, like think about like Prison Strong, think about like bodyweight bodybuilding, right? It's like, dude, go to the playground, push-ups, pull-ups, push-ups, dips, Bulgarian squats, You know, I mean, you could, and then adjust the tempo of the movement, add pauses, do them, maybe actually do them strict and don't use momentum. Like, who would have thought? You know, it's
Right.
like, I mean, there's really, I mean, dude, I'm telling you, like with the body weight stuff, especially if you haven't done it in a while and you do it like with intent, you can get a lot of benefit from that. And listen, if you do like a bunch of rounds of pull-ups, dips, and like, you know, walking lunges, dude, that'll like smoke you. So I mean,
Yesterday
you don't need
did,
to, you keep it simple.
and then you could push a car, push a truck. There's a lot of ways to keep getting strong right now, and this is going to be a telling tale of who is doing the work, who is not, especially for the athletes. You know, when fall sports begins, you know, I think the football coaches are going to have a hard time running practice if their kids are out of shape. And I always said, if you don't know anything about training, everybody knows push-ups, everybody knows how to sprint, you know, not distance run, sprint. Third thing, go out and push a car. Is conjugate method good for hypertrophy? Absolutely, because it shocks the body, meaning like your body is like, it responds to the different stuff. And also that's a good method to avoid overuse injuries. So even training the high school kids, you know, we do a 2-week mini cycle, just like what I do at my gym. Hey, we do, you did a, what do you say, a West webinar yesterday?
Yeah,
West
I did. Yeah, we recorded a Zoom call with my buddy Chris Della Fave. I'm not sure if you know Chris. I believe he might have trained with Joe DeFranco at some point, but he's he's an 1,100-pound squatter. He's one of those top multiply guys right now. But yeah, we talked about the conjugate method in detail, like for athletes and powerlifters. So I would definitely, it's about like an hour and a half presentation. So I definitely check that out. And it's kind of pertinent to what we're talking about right now.
Anybody got a final question before?
Yeah, we got time for one more.
Yeah, I think I might have 2 minutes left on this. Who's got a final question? And then Gags, just go to, Gaglione Strength on Instagram. Is that the best way to connect?
Yeah, at Gaglione Strength. Give us a follow, 5-star review. We also have a podcast, Powerlifting for the People. And I'll just kind of leave it, man. It's like, I think if we can kind of learn anything from this, it's like, just focus on what you can do, not what you can't. I think, if anything that we've kind of, the strong life message, dude, it's like, just do the work, just keep doing the work, put your head down. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Don't dude, it's like, if you got up today and you were able to go to the bathroom in a toilet, and you got a roof over your head and you got food in your fridge, like, that's awesome, dude. It's like, there are much worse things that could be going on. So just right now is a great time to focus on your training and your nutrition if you can't really focus on other things. So just get to work. Just get to work and set a goal and just get going. Just get
set
going.
a goal, get going. Look at my boy Nelson. He said, I always say that. Your competition loves the excuses. So whenever somebody's got an excuse, I was like, that's all right, man. The competition loves when you're doing a half squat. I rip into people. All right, Gags, been great, my man. Great seeing you. I'm sure I'll see you again, buddy. And,
yeah, no, it was good. It was good to catch up. And thanks, brother.
Love you, bro.
Live the code, and guys, stay safe, stay strong, and keep working hard out there.
Love you, man. Talk to you soon, bro. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Later.
Later, bro.